Let's rev those engines and burn those tires because it's time for Top End Talk with Nitro Allie.
Thank you, Bob Beck, for that introduction, as always, and welcome everyone to Top End Talk with Nitro Allie. I am your host, Nitro Allie, and I am so excited to be here tonight with funny car driver Jim Campbell. Thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight.
Well, Allie, thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself so that way the viewers can get to know you.
Well, let's see. This will be my 10th year driving a professional funny car or top fuel funny car. I got my start with Del Worsham in 2015, I'm sorry. And then drove for Dell's car for a year and Terry Haddock's a little bit. Got hired by Big Jim Dunn, who's a legend, and drove for him for about 7 years and then went out and trying to work on my own team right now, doing some stuff with Mark Hirschhauser and driving his car as Jim Campbell Racing becomes a factor.
Awesome. Awesome. So, for a lot of people, their love of motorsports started at a very young age. Was that the same for you, or where did that come from?
Well, I've always loved drag racing. It's something about Nitro that is just absolutely phenomenal. So, for anybody that's listening to the show and you've never been to a race, you have to go. It's one of these things on the planet. Maybe seeing the space shuttle take off, maybe having an F-18 fly over your head, or having two Nitro cars take off. But I've loved drag racing since I was big enough to see over the fence, standing on my dad's legs. So, and that started in Phoenix, Arizona, where I was born. And through that, I've always loved Nitro cars. And as a paramedic to work a lot of the races. And then one of my best friends, Jack Beckman, who probably a lot of people know, and now driving John Force's car, we kind of had a little bet/bucket list going on. And I told him I could drive his car. And of course, I'm sure he's heard that 1,000 times. And it's like, well, we'll see. So I went to Frank Hawley, and I'd like to give a shout out to Frank Hawley. Love Frank Hawley. And if you want to learn how to drive a race car, Frank Hawley's drag racing school is one of them. Went to Frank Hawley's, drove the alcohol car, made about 8 or 10 passes, and got the thumbs up for everybody. Del Worsham gave me the opportunity to drive his Nitro car, and I licensed in 2015, and the rest is history.
Awesome. So, was that the first car that you ever drag raced? Was that Frank Hawley's, or did you do anything at the local drag strips in the years prior?
I didn't, so I'm kind of a freak show. I went straight professional. So there was a little animosity at first, like, who is this guy and where did he come from? I drove a super comp just playing around a little bit,
Mhm.
but I went for it and, I got a 1 in a million shot and took advantage of it.
Well, and that's pretty exciting because you're kind of coming in as the underdog because a lot of these guys, they've started, some of them started juniors, but now we're seeing it, in their 20s and 30s. And, you're starting a little bit later in life without the experience and the seat time that a lot of these guys have. That's pretty incredible.
Well, it is, it's one of those things, and I'll tell this to everybody, you never know what you could do until you try it. And if you would have asked me 12 years ago, would I be driving a professional nitro funny car? After I got done laughing at you, I'd have said, yeah, right. And, 2025, here I am driving a nitro funny car for my 10th year.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, some people, they have their um, superstitions, if you will, or I got to touch this, do that, just otherwise the race isn't going to go quite right. Do you have any pre-race, rituals or routines that you have to do, or so it doesn't jinx you?
It is so funny. I'm not a superstitious person. I'm super focused. And for somebody who's very hyper, such as myself, I need to calm myself more down than pick myself up. So it's kind of the reverse effect. Everybody, and if anybody ever tells you not, am I afraid to drive the car? Absolutely not. Do I get butterflies? You probably, John Force and everybody else gets butterflies. But once you get strapped into that car, it's your office and all that goes away. So up to that point, I think anybody that's human is just going to be natural. I don't really have any routine. I sit and focus. I don't talk to a lot of people. And once I'm inside the car, unless it's something that they need to really tell me on the radio, I don't want to talk to anybody either.
That's awesome. Now, and you talked about, as soon as you're there, you are focused. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit from, what happens in, a typical run from that moment where you're getting, strapped into your safety equipment, all, to the first, burnout all the way down to the return road? What does a full run entail?
Well, that's a great question, Allie. I'll explain it from the start to the beginning. Once I get suited up, I have a specific way that I walk around the car. So I walk around the passenger side. I look at my parachutes to make sure the pins have been pulled. And then I get in on just you would say, the driver's side, even though I go underneath the body. Once I get inside the car, I have two crew members. Usually it's Anthony and Jimmy that strap me in. They'll get me all belted in until I'm nice and snug and tight. Remember, we are belted in extremely tight because you don't want to move. My arms are tied in and my head's tied in. As we go rolling up to the ready box, or where you see the water box is the burnout, we'll roll up behind the other two cars that are already in the process of either staging or running, and I'll wait. The crew chief and I obviously have a very good rapport, and we know each other's expressions. He'll look at me and give me the thumbs up and the nod. I'll look at him, give him the thumbs up and the nod. And so how our cars are started, they're started with an actual starter. So as funny as it sounds, we burn nitromethane, but we start these cars on 87 octane regular gasoline. And they'll spin the blower, and I'll count to 2, 3, and I'll pull the fuel on. Nitromethane is an explosive fuel, so lighting a match to it won't do anything to it. Hit it with a hammer, and you'll be looking for your hammer in your arm. Once they light the car up and stuff like that, he's going to go ahead and make some adjustments on the blower idle or whatever he wants to do onto it, and they'll lower the body down. When they lower the body down, he'll roll me out. He'll put his fist down, and then I'll tell me, go ahead and do the burnout. After I do the burnout, there's somebody at the top end, or after my burnout, that will back me up because, again, my head's tied in. So they'll back me up by putting their hands forward, backwards, however they'll do it. Whatever the crew chief behind them tells them to do, I will do what they tell me to do. Once I back up, we'll go ahead and they'll pull forward. As I pull forward, I'll stop, I'll push the clutch in, I'll hold the brake, and they'll lift the body up. Now, anytime this car is stopped, I've got the clutch in and I'm holding the brake with all the power that I can in case something happens. And we've seen accidents happen, to where stuff does. So safety is a huge priority to me. So I'll go ahead and push the clutch in, hold the brake. He'll make his adjustments. They'll lower the body. I can't see the actual starting line because they're beams. So they'll roll me forward and he'll stop me usually about 3 inches from the first beam, which would be the pre-stage light. And both crew chiefs will look at each other, they'll acknowledge that they're ready to rock and roll. At that point, he'll bump on the car, he'll point to me and say, the track's yours. The way we tell each driver how it goes is when we turn on that pre-stage light, that means that we're pretty much ready to rock and roll. In every other drag racing sport except Top Fuel and Funny Car, they can have staging duels, they can play games with each other and stuff like that. We can't. We will run out of fuel. I burn a gallon of fuel just at idle every 10 to 12 seconds. So there's no playing games. Everybody knows everybody's routine. So once we pre-stage, John Force is notorious. He always likes to go in first, and I have all the respect for that. I do the same routine over and over and over. And that's what we were taught, and that's what I still do, is be a robot in that car. Mm-hmm. So once I go ahead and decide that I'm ready to do it, usually I'll take 2 or 3 big, deep breaths. I'll reach over and I'll pull the fuel on the high side. Now that's opening up both fuel pumps. Now it's just throwing nitro in there. I'll let my foot off the clutch. So if you've been at the line or something, you hear our engine sound change. At that point, I have a handbrake and I bump it. And my objective is to flicker that bottom light or the stage light. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Once you're staged, you have 7 seconds as the other opponent to go in, or you will automatically be red lighted. But once they go in, then it's just a matter of reaction time. And the tree on a pro tree is 0.040. So from the time it takes from yellow to green. Soon as I see the first color of amber, and LEDs change that out a lot because they're really, really quick. As soon as I see the first glimmer of amber, I release the brake, stomp the throttle, and hopefully make it right down the middle of the track. Then at the end, my parachute lever sits on the side of the body when it comes down in a funny car. The dragster is down farther. So that's the difference between funny cars and dragsters too. I got the engine in front of me. Once I make it down to the end of the track, the transponder will kick everything off. I have a switch that I can kick the ignition and the fuel off, so there's no chances of the mags refiring. Hopefully my parachutes come out, I roll around the corner, and I either made a good run or I didn't.
That's awesome. And one thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure the other fans have noticed too, is that, when we're in the stands watching everything, whether it's, dragsters or funny cars, there's a lot of people. And like you were saying, you got several people down there kind of helping you, and everything goes literally like a well-oiled machine. About how many people are down there? How many different jobs are there? Or do they kind of share different jobs?
No, everybody has a specific job. So you'll have a right side head guy, a left side head guy, you'll have a bottom end guy, you'll have a blower guy, you'll have somebody who does the body. I pack, and I think most of the drivers pack their own parachutes. I have an air bottle that I fill up that I use for breathing air. At the same time, it also keeps my visor from fogging up at night or in the daytime if we get some of these humidified areas. So everybody has a specific job, and it is a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I definitely want to touch on, that, like I've told you before, it's my personal opinion that, the crew, they really are the backbone of the whole racing, environment. I mean, you can't race without your crew. They're really fundamental in your success, so, do you mind, just sharing some of your crew members, what they do? And I know you have great appreciation for them.
Well, you're absolutely right. This car does not go anywhere without my team members. So going starting out, Mark Hirschhauser and I have teamed up together. So his wife Jennifer and Heather kind of run the hospitality and marketing portion of it. Jimbo Ermolovich, who's a dinosaur, and he'll even tell you that. I call him a dinosaur, but he used to tune Al Hoffman's car. So this man's been around a long time, and his son Anthony. So I've known them since day one, love them to death. I love all my crew. I've got Mike Cheney, who does some of the bottom end, Skip, who does the tires, Pete, who does some of the clutch. We've got John Crosley, we've got Brian, and we've got, I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody, and Charlie, our truck driver, he counts too.
Well, you need somebody to get you there, and then, so, and
That is
all in one
correct.
piece too. So high five to Charlie for that one.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Now, I'm sure in the 10 years that you've been racing, which in reality really isn't that long, but you've had some pretty extraordinary moments. What is the most memorable moment out of your racing career thus far?
My most memorable moment, and people are gonna love it. Like I told you at the beginning, my great friend Jack Beckman got me into this, and I beat him in Charlotte. And we got to the top end, and he looks at me and he goes, "You beat me." And he goes, "It's pretty cool." He teaches at Frank Holly's drag racing school and stuff like that. And the amount of people that go through there and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a pro driver. I'm going to be a pro driver. I'm going to be a pro driver," and we all do. How many people really get the opportunity or the chance to do it? And when we were up at the top end one time, he goes, Jim, it's pretty cool that we just went side by side 300 miles an hour plus. And I thought that was pretty cool. So that sticks with me probably as one of the best moments.
Oh,
That and also racing for the legend Jim Dunn. I have a special place in my heart for Jim Dunn. He's been around this stuff since dinosaurs, and he's an awesome man, and the Duns themselves. So I put out a special shout to him and congratulate him for his lifetime achievement award that he received at the award banquet this year.
that's fantastic. Definitely quite. I mean, you're saying some pretty notable names, and you're right up there with them. Give yourself some credit as well, with some of the successes that you've had in this 10 years, and along, with the successes, there's always been, that, oh my gosh moment. I can't believe I did this, or, whatever it is. I call it the oh crap moment. Have you
Right?
had something, like that happen in your career? And if you have, what have you taken from it?
Well, I haven't. And my oh crap moments come really, it was one thing, is when you red light. Sometimes the brain says go and the foot doesn't. And sometimes the foot says go and the brain doesn't. So when you red light, you lose, you let down your team, you beat yourself up for it because you didn't give yourself a chance. So probably the ones I really bag on. Everybody's going to have a bad light now and then. I get that. It doesn't take much to get distracted. Again, try to be focused is the biggest thing. And somebody who's pretty hyper like me, I've got to contain that energy and focus it towards the task at hand.
Well, and I think every racer can relate to that. Everyone's had a red light, and if they say, if you get trip zip, then that's almost like a red light. You're cutting it a little too close. So I think everyone can kind of relate to that, And then I know you've had some close calls in the past. Back in Vegas, I think it was 7-8 years ago. John Forrest crossed over. Almost hit you. I don't think he did hit you. Correct me if I'm wrong. And have you had any other experiences like that where you kind of went like, whoa, what happened? And it's kind of out of the norm where you kind of had to adjust beyond the norm.
Right, right. So depending on the generations of the bodies and the funny cars, they're always hard to see out of anyway, different
Right.
than the dragsters. So it makes it as the new generation of bodies have came around, you get to see a little more peripherally. John came across. That's where we're running the laid back headers. I was a year and a half into driving, so all of a sudden, I Peak parachute bounced off my windshield, and I'm thinking I'm not sponsored by Peak, and so I didn't really know that it comes across until he was in front of me, and we just barely missed, but we didn't hit, and we're all professional drivers, and it's one of those uh-oh moments.
Right.
Same thing with explosions, fires, crashes. I will say the difference between an explosion and a fire. An explosion, generally, you don't know it's coming. If you're going to crash, and this is why a lot of this people want to ask why we went to 1,000 feet. Well, when we ran English Town in Pomona, we needed the shutoff time because if your parachutes don't come out, you're going to go in the trap. A lot of these tracks have very long shutoff periods, so I can get the cars stopped. But I crashed in Pomona, and when my chutes didn't come out, I don't care how much brake you grab, you're going to go into the trap. So that your eyes get bigger, everything is a little tighter, and you're never going to crash. But the explosions with basically, I have three jobs: leave on time, keep it in the middle, and deal with any emergency en route.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, the chute's not working. That I think that happens more frequently than people would like to admit, because I've seen it on several different occasions. Is that just due to malfunction or what is that typically? I mean, malfunction seems pretty obvious, but is there something more standard that would trigger that versus just, everyone thinks they did everything the right way and something just happened?
Right. These are mechanical parts. It's the same thing when people ask me, well, why'd you drop a cylinder? There's 100 reasons that you'll drop a cylinder.
Right.
On the parachute systems, most of the time, usually, our chute cables are just pieces of wire.
Hmm.
That's connected inside. So a lot of times you'll break a chute cable. Sometimes when the parachutes deploy, depending on where you put your springs to come out, sometimes they'll get tangled around the wheelie bar. So those are usually the general two reasons that your chutes don't come out.
Awesome. Awesome. And, do you pack your own chutes or does somebody else do that for you?
Absolutely, I pack my own chutes. A lot of times too, and I've done this, and I learned this from Jag too. And you and I talked about this on the airplane coming home. I'm a big junior dragster fan,
Yes.
and so I will pull a kid out of the. Everybody likes to watch how we pack our parachutes, so I'll find a young man or woman to come over and give me a hand. And I know if I was 5, 6, or 7 years old, and I got to help pack a professional funny car chute, it's pretty cool. There's nothing they can do that's going to make my chutes not come out. I'm watching stuff, but it's a thrill for them, and I think you made a fan for life that way.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that's one thing that makes you so relatable to the fan base is that, you do take the time with your fans, especially, the little guys. I always, it melts my heart when I see these little squirts go up. They're wearing these hats, these baseball hats that are, too big for their head and they're starry eyed looking at you, holding a hero card, just thinking, oh my gosh. And, with you, I see you are always accessible to your fans. You are never too busy for your fans. Other times I've seen other drivers that they're only accessible during designated autograph times, and they really kind of forgot where they've come from. And that's not you. And so that's something that I really, want to applaud you for making those fans feel special.
Well, thank you so much. I pride myself on spending as much time with the fans as possible. I know what it's like to be on the other side. I'm also a fan. I may be a driver, but I'm also a big fan. And when there's a little kid, even an adult, it doesn't matter. We're
Right.
all human. We're all the same people. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. You paid your hard-earned money to come watch me race, which I appreciate. And at the same time, the least I can do is sign something for you, take a picture with you, or just talk to you. Again, I can't say that as we are all the same people. We just have different jobs in this world.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I do definitely like about NHRA drag racing. I've been to other racing events. NHRA drag racing is just what I'm comfortable with. It's what I know, it's what I love. And again, their open pit format is really spectacular for the fans because it does give them that opportunity, to really engage. And I think one thing that I really like to emphasize, especially for sponsors or potential sponsors, is it's one thing to have your name on the car, on the shirt, on the fire suit. But what's even more important than that is having a driver that is going to promote your name, your product, your service by really engaging with the fan base. And that's something that you truly excel at. And I've been involved with drag racing for roughly 15 years now, not a long time, but not a short period of time either. And I have personally witnessed on multiple occasions, I'm buying that product because that person took the time to spend time with me, or they took the time and made my child's day. And so I really want sponsors or potential sponsors to realize that you are phenomenal at that. And by doing that, you're also creating a fan for life and potentially growing the sport, which is something we are in dire need of right now.
I agree with you 100%. We are trying. So drag racing seems to be an older based fan type thing, and we're
Mhm.
trying to bring in the young kids. Of course, we all encourage everybody not to drag race on the street, do
Right.
it in a controlled environment. That's what racetracks are for. But like I said, I could be en route to an autograph session, and some little kid says, "Hey, Jim," or whatever, and I will stop. I will sign your shirt and go on. NHRA is the most accessible motorsports fan. If you go to NASCAR, if you go to IndyCar, if you go to an NFL game or a basketball game,
Mhm.
the players aren't going to come off the court. They're not going to come up into the stands. But the one thing in drag racing that you can do is you have access to the drivers. We love to talk to people, and you have your ticket as a pit pass. So you don't
Right.
have to have 14 credentials to get down and look at the car. So I think that makes it super special, and that's what makes NHRA drag racing the most accessible fan sport that there is on the planet.
Absolutely. And I know that you treat everyone like a VIP, but I know that you're starting a VIP experience this coming March at the Gator Nationals. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's just it's in a pilot program. Heather Ingman and Dawn Parler have been working on it, and Mark Hirschhauser, and it's going to be a fan-based experience to where you're going to become an honorary crew member. So we will dress you up in the same uniforms that our team wears. We'll have you do something. You can
Mhm.
help me clean the body or help me clean the windshield, but you will be an honorary crew member. You enjoy hospitality and being part of the team, and then you will come out and help us run the car. So as we get things set up, it's something that we're finalizing right now. So I don't have all the details,
Mhm.
but they will be available here shortly. But I think anybody who's always wanted to go behind the scenes, and that's another thing I will say too, is that a lot of times we'll pull people out of the crowd. Can I look at your car? Can I do that? I like taking kids and letting them sit in my car or
Mhm.
something like that. Um, you're not going to hurt anything in the car. Why not? I get it that it's a race car and it's not a toy, but at the same time, you're also building a lifelong memory. And despite what you do, you can't take away memories.
Absolutely. And that was another thing that I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit, just with my experience with you, with a lot, especially these kids. You treat them like VIPs. You are getting their autographs. So tell me a little bit about, those situations.
So I love the junior dragster program. I think it's phenomenal. There's a lot of these kids that go faster than a lot of adults have been in their car in these junior dragsters, and we're talking 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. I make a deal with them. I go over and I sign autographs for them and give them hero cards. And if I have some pistons or some raws or some out of the car, but the deal is that you have to sign an autograph back for me, and I have envelopes full of hero cards from junior dragsters, and I keep those in a special place. And then we all take a group picture together, and I post it.
See, that's awesome. And you never know, one of those kids you might be racing against here in the near future.
That is a very good possibility. And listen, these young kids have quick reaction times, as older guys don't. So that's maybe I'll just have to roll it in a little deeper.
No, that's really neat. And and I know you're from Southern California. We're kind of from the same neck of the woods, and racing here is becoming a lot more difficult, with the tracks closing, most recently Irwindale, which was really devastating for a lot of people. What are your thoughts on those track closures, and how do you think we can continue to grow the sport of drag racing, being that our tracks are disappearing?
Well, you know, excuse me. I'm not going to get into politics. We live in
No.
California, but tracks close and tracks are opening. And it's been a slower process than we had planned on. I know there were some other tracks that we were looking at. We've lost some of my favorite tracks. Denver, even though it was, mile high and it was everything sounded weird and stuff, the Bandemiers did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Pomona, stuff like that. I just believe that we need to get this out and market this better than we do. And I think that's the biggest issue is you look at NASCAR, you look at IndyCar, you look at Supercross, which just is in Anaheim this weekend. They do a phenomenal job at marketing. And NHRA does too. And now that Fox has stepped in and,
Mhm.
they do a great job on that. But we need to get the younger crowd involved in it. And the junior dragster program's one way. And the other way is to get them to come to the races, get the parents to bring them in. And at NHRA, 12 and under are free. So it doesn't cost the parents anything except the, $100 you're going to spend on hot dogs and t-shirts.
Absolutely. Well, and one thing, with NHRA, with their sponsor right now being In and Out, you can actually get an In and Out burger or meal at a fairly reasonable price versus, some of the other, I'll call it fair type food, so they've really tried to make it a little bit more friendly on the wallet when you go to the races there. So, and you did bring up an interesting point too of course, I always go back to the juniors, I love them. I know you do too. And, and what a lot of people don't realize, and I got to give you a shout out on is thank you, for partnering with me for the Peek into the Future Junior Driver of the Month, and I know we had our first experience with Miss Jacelyn Gonzaga here, and who I'm actually going to be interviewing later. But, I think it's really critical and kind of give me your thoughts as far as really highlighting these kids at an amateur level.
Well, first off, thank you for letting me be involved in that. That was an honor. So for the people that don't know, Nitro had set up. She does an award for the year, and I believe there's going to be 12 of them, and one
Mhm.
gets picked at the end of the year. I
Right.
got to be involved in the first one with Jacelyn, wonderful young lady. This lady's got more Wallies than I do. She's got a 4.0 grade average. She's just a remarkable young lady, and it was an honor to talk to her and see the future. This is the future, whether it be in drag racing or the future in life or doctors or politics, whatever it may be. It was just really very fun to be involved in that. And I think it's an outstanding program that you have going, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
No, I thank you for doing it. And I just think it's really important, especially now when kids are getting highlighted to do negative, bad things, that we really start to kind of switch the focus and highlight and give praise and notoriety to the kids that are just so well rounded. They may or may not be the best racer on the track, and the chances of someone going pro, let's be honest, are slim, if not none, in the grand scheme of things. It's very, very difficult, so we want to make sure at the end of the day, or at the end of their amateur racing career, that they at least are well-rounded individuals that are contributing to society. And should they, decide to move through the ranks of racing, that they represent the sport well, that they have that professional, behavior that sponsors are going to go, yep, I want that one, so.
And that's exactly it. And that also goes along with the parents. Good
Mhm.
parenting helps produce good kids, and the kids got to produce themselves in a good environment. And so you're generally, there's a lot of peer pressure out there to do right things and wrong things. If you
Right.
follow the right path, I can almost guarantee that good things are going to happen.
Absolutely. Now let's kind of backtrack a little bit. You were a paramedic for a lot of years. What was that like?
Well, listen, my heart, I love helping people. That's just the
Yeah.
bottom line. I like helping people in emergencies. Everybody's put on this planet for different jobs. So some people may not want to deal with emergencies because they don't like blood and guts. I get that,
Yeah.
but there has to be people out there that does. And I would like to put out a real shout out, since you and I are from Southern California. We've had some wicked fires here over the last 2 weeks, and our first responders have done a phenomenal job with the resources and stuff they had. And just from experience, there's no way you're going to stop a 75-mile-an-hour wind fire. That's just the
Yeah.
way it is. But everybody did a great job, and it really goes to show you that there are more good people in this world than bad, because the response from not just California people and SoCal people, but from around the United States and around the world that have reached out to help these victims has been absolutely phenomenal. And so kudos to everybody, and thank you for your efforts.
Absolutely. That goes to all first responders. And that even goes, we got to give a shout out to the dispatchers that are taking these calls, that are trying to funnel them as fast as they can. All the paramedics, EMTs, firefighters, people that are operating, the planes, the scoopers, the helicopters. And I'm sure there's way more than that I'm missing, but still everyone involved with those, definitely kudos and high five, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts, for all your efforts, and the days of lost sleep and everything else, and just doing the best that you can. So with your experiences, with just responding as a paramedic, you know is that what inspired you to create your business, a California safety fire specialist?
It did. Police officers go start security companies,
Yeah.
firefighters and paramedics start safety companies. That's what's bred into us. And I want to see everybody go home at the end of the day. So I have a bunch of credentials. I go out and teach different companies how to be safe, how to follow OSHA guidelines, how to do things right. We can all cut corners and things like that. To cut corners and then have to turn around and say, because I didn't do this, we lost your loved one. I'm not
Right.
that person. I want to make sure everybody knows what to do in emergency. I think everybody in this world should know CPR, basic CPR and first aid. I would love to see it taught one day a year in the schools,
Mhm.
and you would remember that for the rest of your life. But I do believe in safety, and I do believe in helping people in their time of need.
Which I think that's really great. And then a little birdie told me you've recently partnered with the American Red Cross for next year.
Well, so I've been an American Red Cross instructor for over 25 years, and I've taught a lot of people. And they did a story on me, which was great, from me doing CPR to me driving a nitro funny car, kind of from one realm to the
Mhm.
other, which is really cool. And the Red Cross has allowed me, because I want to help them as much as I can, to put their logo on our car. It won't be the Red Cross car, but the logo will be on the car, and it's an honor for us as a team to have the Red Cross logo on there. And when you were talking about teams, going back to that, from the people that cook the food for everybody, whether it be on the race team or the firefighters, or
Right.
to the people that actually do it, it takes a team effort. And if one link of that team doesn't work well, then the whole team doesn't work well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now you seem to have quite the busy schedule. I mean, You've got your fire safety company, which I'm sure is just incredibly busy right now, obviously with the California fires going on, plus just the regular clients that you have. And now we're kind of going into your racing season. Do you have really any downtime to kind of do hobbies or decompress, or are you just kind of go, go, go?
I'm a kind of a go, go, go guy. Again, I'm high energy. So if I'm not doing something, I feel like I'm not being productive, even though I know they call things vacation. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what vacation is anymore between cell phones and emails and text messages. You're never really on vacation. I'm also a pilot, so I like to fly. I like to surf. I live in Huntington Beach, so I have waves right across the street. So that's how I get my downtime. But usually I'm just go, go, go. And until I can't go, go anymore, that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. I love that. Now, you fly, what kind of plane do you fly?
So I fly anything from a 172, 182, an Aero 200, twin engine Seneca. So just private pilot stuff, not commercial or any of that stuff. I just always wanted to get my pilot's license. And in 2010, I became an FAA licensed pilot.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Now, a lot of people didn't know that, but a lot with all of us, we all have those quirky little things about us that nobody really knows, some odd behavior or superstition, anything. What is something quirky about you that nobody would know?
Oh, let's see. Um, well, the two things I can tell you I don't do is sing and draw because if you want me to keep all the werewolves and coyotes away from your house, ask me to sing. And if you want a six-fingered stick person, I'm more than happy to draw it. Quirky, probably. I I have a really really bad habit of being a smart aleck,
Oh,
and that's probably my quirkiest things because somebody will be super, super, super serious about something, and I get it if it's super serious, but I will try to maybe lighten it up just a little bit because it looks like this guy's going to go over the ledge.
uh,
So probably being a smart aleck is my, I think, is pretty obvious. So I don't know if it's too much of a secret that I'm not shy.
oh, perfect. No, I love that. That's funny. I get in trouble at work sometimes for being that way, but time and place, I guess, and they haven't fired me yet,
Exactly.
so I guess it's okay. You know. Now,
Got to.
being that you're a motorsports enthusiast and driver, if you could drive any car in the world, doesn't matter what it is, race car or not, what would it be?
Does it have to be a car?
No, no, huh?
I'd like to fly the F-22 Raptor
And why is that?
because it's the coolest plane on the planet.
All right, since I'm not, I love planes, but I will tell everyone I don't know the first thing about them. Tell us a little bit about that plane so that way people like me that don't understand them very well know what's so special about it.
The F-22 is a military jet. It's a fighter bomber. It's called the F-22 Raptor.
Okay.
It's a diamond-shaped plane. It's thrust vectored. So most planes turn in a circle,
Uh-huh.
a radial. These are thrust vectored, so they can wash out, and they've got so much thrust and power that I think I have a very cool job driving 11,000 horsepower car and going 300 miles an hour. I'll bet you this guy up in the Raptor says, that's a cool job, but mine's just as cool. So just to be able to go Mach 2.5, to go 1,500 miles an hour would be pretty fun.
Would you ever want to relive that scene from Top Gun where they were inverted?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got no problem. I like to, like I said, I like fly, so I like to do aerobatics too. So I like to fly upside down and do silly stuff. So
Awesome. Well, maybe someone from the Blue Angels or something like that will hear this interview and go, "Hey, we need to get him on board." That would be epic if that happened.
that would be great. I'll take their bet because I have some friends of mine in the military and we pull about 7.5 to 8 Gs in the car
Right.
when we're full bore, and they're pulling 9 to 10, but they're in a G suit. And anybody's out there, I'll take their bet that they can't knock me out.
Oh, challenge accepted. You hear that, guys? So if you got a plane or have some connections somewhere, we gotta check this out and see if he goes 3 sheets to the wind while up there. So,
That is correct.
oh, I love it. So now, if people want to follow you on social media or reach out to you for sponsorship opportunities, how can they find you?
Well, we have two different ways. So you can go to my website, jimcampbellracing.com. There's a contact entry form on there. So if you want to send a message, if you want hero cards or something like that that I have left over, or you weren't able to get it at the race or something like that, I'll mail one out to you. It's that simple. So all the information's on my website. That's jimcampbellracing.com. All my social media, I've tried to keep this so simple, but I am sort of a dinosaur on social media too.
Mhm.
That's why there's great people that do it. And everything is at or it's Jim Campbell FC for Funny Car. So
Awesome.
whether it be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, I'm still working on this YouTube stuff and all that stuff. That's why there's people that do this because I get lost on that. But it's all Jim Campbell FC.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I know that it takes a lot, to run a team. It takes a lot of sponsors, a lot of help, whether it's financial or with product. Which sponsors would you like to just give that special thank you to?
Well, we have a couple of good sponsors that come out and do stuff with us. Paul Watson Foundation was on the car last year, so they've done some stuff with us. Van Diest Brothers. So I have a lot of little sponsors. We're looking for that big sponsor, and I think we all are. I want a Napa. I want a Snap On. I want a Matco. Um, it's easier said than done, but I
Right.
can tell that any big sponsor, if you bring Jim Campbell Racing on board, we will represent you professionally. We will make sure that your product gets known, and I'll do everything in my power to make you feel the best about your product, and I will sure represent it in the utmost fashion.
No, and I've seen that firsthand. I can personally attest as to what you do, how you do it, and you're so approachable. Even when I met you at the airport, I'm all, I know that guy. He doesn't know me, but I know that guy, because you've always been out there front and center, not shy. You're very approachable, even though I'm disrupting you with your earpods in and you're reading at the airport. But, you were so receptive and so kind. And even at the airport, you're wearing your shirt, your sponsor attire. So, everywhere you go, you are out representing your sponsors in the highest capacity possible. Again, even basically in your off time. So, I mean, they really need to recognize that. And, hopefully we can get that big one for you.
That would be absolutely awesome. I try to remind sponsors when we're bringing them in. We travel the country in semi trucks, and you talk about a driving billboard, it
Yeah.
goes all over the country. So, what some of these big sponsors pay for one television commercial could
Mhm.
fund our team, but it'll get more viewers than that one commercial will. It's just trying to get them to try to get them out to the track. You got to love drag racing. And I think once people get out there, TV does our sport no justice. You can watch NASCAR all day and it goes around, and I get it. But when you hear two top fuel cars take off and it shakes the ground, I think it's a different experience. And that's what we'd like to see is to get some new sponsors out there. We have a lot of the old sponsors out there, but I think at some point we've got to turn the corner and bring some of these people in that are outside of the drag racing realm that they could get a lot of ROI on sponsorship through racing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said before, I've seen it firsthand where just because of that fan interaction that you have had with a youngster or even just anyone, your average Joe fan, that you took that time to make them feel special, they are going to buy the products that you represent because they know by doing that, they're supporting you and hopefully we'll get that sponsorship retention for the following year. But they do respect those sponsors and they respect the drivers as well. So I think that's critical,
Well,
you
thank
know.
you.
Yeah. So anyway, well, Jim, thank you so very much for your time this evening. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Allie, and thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you at PRI and the airport. And again, thank you for approaching and saying hi. I didn't know initially who you were, and after talking with you, and we were both taking the same flights, at least two. You went to Ontario, I believe, and I came
Yeah.
back to Santa Ana. But it was a pleasure to talk with you, and I look forward to doing some more stuff here with the Junior Dragsters. And anything I can help you with or something like that, just know that I'm here to help.
Awesome. I sure appreciate that. Thank you for being such a great ambassador to the sport and, being such a great role model for the kids. I mean, you really are truly extraordinary. So thank you. All
Thank you
right.
very much. And I enjoyed being on your show. And everybody tune in to Nitro Alley,
All right.
best
All right.
podcast on the planet.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for tuning in tonight. Remember to go out and support your local drag strip, your local racetrack. Bring a friend. Let's keep racing alive. And I will always say it at the end of every show, God bless you. God bless America, our first responders and military. And I'll see you next time on the top end. Good night, everybody.